Hey guys, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see by the title of today's video, today I'm going to be discussing Brian Bertino's The Strangers from 2008. It's actually quite shocking that I haven't discussed this film yet on my channel because this is honestly one of my favorite horror movies of all time. But I figured with the new Strangers movie coming out pretty soon, which I will be covering by the way once it comes out, that I would finally cover the original film on my channel. And this is not a reaction, it's just a review. There are plenty of reaction videos for The Strangers on YouTube, so go watch one of those if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, The Strangers. After returning from a wedding reception, a couple staying in an isolated vacation house receive a knock on the door in the mid-hours of the night. What ensues is a violent invasion of three strangers, their faces hidden behind masks. The couple find themselves in a violent struggle in which they go beyond what either of them thought capable in order to survive. So let's travel back in time to 2008, shall we? I was 13 years old in 7th grade, and I remember going to see this in the theater with my older sister. And I actually remember the experience quite vividly. I also remember just the buzz for this movie around that time. Like, I remember kids talking about it in my classes, like, have you seen The Strangers? Oh my god, it's so scary. Stuff like that. And I could actually tell by the trailer that this might genuinely scare me. You know how you can just tell sometimes? I could just tell. I also remember them playing the trailer for the Poughkeepsie tapes.
The Poughkeepsie tapes.
In the theater before the film started, which scared the piss out of me. Come to find out that that film would inevitably be pulled and not get a theatrical release, which created even more mysteriousness and weirdness around it, which I'll talk about Poughkeepsie tapes in more detail at a later time.
Trauma.
But yeah, seeing The Strangers in the theater is, to this day, genuinely one of the most frightening theater experiences I've ever had. But I just remember feeling so excited because I finally found a movie that could scare me, you know? And of course, as you probably know, they made a sequel, The Strangers Pray at Night from 2018, which I really enjoy that one. I will probably cover that at some point on my channel, but yeah, very different from the original, but still really enjoyable in its own way. And of course, as everyone knows by now, they are making a new Strangers trilogy.
A trilogy.
And the first part of that trilogy is going to be kind of a remake of the 2008 film, but also be a prequel, if I'm remembering correctly. I did watch the trailer for it, and like I said, I am going to cover it, but to put it bluntly, just based on the trailer, it felt very CW, you know? Very straight to streaming, if you know what I mean. Not very promising, but of course, we'll see. Do I think that a film from 2008 that is actually very scary and a very well-made film needs to be remade? No, not at all. But yeah, The Strangers. Liv Tyler as Kristen and Scott Speedman as James, two actors that I know from very popular 90s things, like of course Liv Tyler from Empire Records and Scott Speedman from Felicity. They are our main characters here, and I just think that they're fantastic in this. I really do. I really love them both as actors, and I think despite the conflict that their characters have in this film, they still have really great chemistry and work so well together. So Kristen and James are coming back from a wedding reception, and it's clear that something is very wrong. We later find out that he proposed to her and she said she wasn't ready. So things are pretty bleak from the get-go. We spend a little time with these characters and things are very tense because of the situation and the circumstances, but you can tell that they still have a lot of love for one another. And it's just such a great, interesting dynamic because you get so lost in the performances and are so in the moment with these two characters and what's going on that you almost forget that you're in a home invasion horror film. And then that's when you get that first knock on the door. And it is terrifying. Like, your stomach just completely drops. It is so simple. And that simplicity is what I think makes this film so effective. There are so many great sequences and scares in this film. When they first open the door after the knock and see the girl standing there, you can't see her face because it's dark, and she asks the now famous question,
"Is Tamara here?"
When we first see the baghead guy behind Liv Tyler in that iconic shot, I remember so vividly just that collective gasp in our theater when that scene happened. It was so chilling, and just that feeling of dread. It is so good. And that shot, to me, if I'm being completely honest, is probably one of the most iconic shots in horror history at this point. We have the strangers putting on the music on the record player, you know, just to like mess with them, to almost play with them, because they don't just want to kill them. They want to scare them. They want to prolong the chase. The friend, Mike, when he enters the house and is looking around for James and Kristen, and again, you see Baghead behind him and just slightly out of focus. That imagery, again, is so freaking unsettling. And then, you know, of course, James accidentally shoots his friend, which... damn, that's a bad night. Okay, first you get your marriage proposal rejected. Then you get your home invaded by 3 masked strangers who are clearly trying to kill you, and then you accidentally shoot your friend dead. Yeah, I guess at that point I would probably want to die. And of course the ending. The ending. I remember thinking like just how mean this movie was when I first saw it and saw the ending, because not only is it super freaking scary like the whole way through and has so much tension and buildup, but we also get this very sad, mean, bleak ending with the strangers ultimately killing Kristen and James. So we don't even really get this like the typical powerful cathartic moment with our main protagonist point of view. We just go through all this traumatic shit with them trying to survive, and then we just end up dying with them. It's bleak. The strangers have them tied to chairs, and they all take their masks off, which is terrifying because that clearly means James and Kristen will not be making it out alive. And of course, Kristen asks them,
"Why are you doing this to us?"
And we get the iconic line,
"Because you were home."
And that is just, even though I half hate how mean the film is, I also half love how mean it is, and the fact that there is just no motive. You know, James and Kristen aren't targeted for any other specific reason other than they were home. They were just kind of there in the path. It's just so simple, but that is why it works. The whole film just feels grounded, like it could happen to you or it could happen to somebody down the street from you. That's why home invasion horror films are just some of the scariest films for me. And also, I noticed in the trailer for the new one, they like kind of changed up that iconic line, "because you were home," and instead they say now, "because you were here."
Because you're here.
Which, okay, yeah, it's kind of the same thing, but it just doesn't sound anywhere near as cool as "because you were home," in my opinion. And yeah, then the strangers stab them to death. And I know there's an extended cut where it's literally just Liv Tyler crawling on the ground for a few seconds, trying to call for help, but the little boys come in and find them, but I think it's safe to say they both die. So yeah, I've heard a couple of different things in regards to the inspiration behind the film. Of course, it opens up with that very ominous voice saying based on true events or real life events. I've heard the Manson murders being kind of like a loose inspiration for the film. I've also heard that it's based more on this creepy encounter that the director had with people coming to his door, asking for people who don't live there just so that they can find out who's home so they could rob them. But, you know, whether or not it was inspired by a specific incident or several incidents, it is still a very terrifying concept. You know, you're home, you think you're in the place where you're going to be the most safe, you have your guard down and someone just comes in and f***s with that and invades your space and tries to kill you. Yeah, home invasion horror is definitely one of the scariest subgenres of horror just because of the simplicity and realism of it. I think the pacing of the film is really good. There's never a dull moment, at least not to me, and the film kind of goes by in a breeze. Do the main characters, Kristen and James, make some questionable decisions? Yes, but never really to the point where I feel all that frustrated with them. Like, there are some moments where I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you still there? Why don't you just freaking run? But at the same time, it's a movie. Our characters sometimes have to do those seemingly stupid things to get from point A to B, to get themselves in these tense situations for our entertainment. So I'm not gonna be that mad at it. The strangers are freaking scary. We have Baghead, Dollface, and Pinup. Baghead is hands down the scariest. I mean, if I saw that dude, I would just surrender because I would be done for. If it were Pinup or Dollface, you know, I feel like we look around the same size, like I might be able to put up a good fight unless they have that like crazy strength, which they most likely do. So yeah, maybe not. But yeah, at the end of the day, I really do consider The Strangers a classic, or a modern day classic. It's not even that old. I know the film is technically over 15 years old at this point, so it's not really considered modern anymore, but definitely not old enough to be remade, but I digress. Let me know what your thoughts are on The Strangers down below. Are you looking forward to the new trilogy that's coming out later this year? Do you have high hopes for it? Or are you a little bit more hesitant? Yeah, like I said, even though I am more hesitant about it than excited for it, I will still definitely be checking it out and reviewing it for you guys on the channel. So look out for that. I just know the tone of it is not going to be the same. I can feel that from the trailer. It just doesn't seem like it's going to feel as grounded or as dark as the 2008 one. And I seriously doubt it's going to be anywhere near as genuinely terrifying as the original. So we'll see. I want to thank you guys for listening to me talk about The Strangers today. Let's talk more about The Strangers in the comments. I'll have all my links in the description box below. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video.